especially with something like Deep Purple in rock, I thought was warranted. Child in Time, and there's a few other tracks on there, Highway Star.
There are rock guitarists, and then there's Ritchie Blackmore, a man who never chased fame, never begged for the spotlight, and never played a single note that didn't matter. While other rock heroes roared into the light, Blackmore carved his legacy in the shadows, cold, focused, and absolutely fearless. Deep Purple, Rainbow, generations of guitar players shaped by his fingerprints. But Ritchie Blackmore didn't arrive as a fully formed legend. He was built, one album at a time, by the artists who opened doors he didn't even know existed yet. Today, we dive into 7 albums that didn't just influence him. They constructed him. If you love deep dives into the giants who forged rock and metal, make sure to subscribe, and tell me in the comments which album changed the way you think about the guitar. Let's begin. Number 7. Are you experienced? The shockwave of Jimi Hendrix. Before Hendrix, the guitar was loud. After Hendrix, the guitar was alive. When Blackmore first heard, "Are you experienced?" in 1967, it wasn't inspiration, it was a wake-up call. Distortion wasn't an accident, Hendrix used it like a painter uses color. Noise wasn't chaos, it was emotion turned electric. Blackmore once said that Hendrix proved the guitar could scream and still stay beautiful. Purple Haze wasn't just a song, it was a warning shot. Manic depression was controlled madness disguised as blues. And even though Blackmore had classical discipline in his blood, Hendrix showed him something critical. Technique and wildness can live in the same body. Hendrix lit his guitar on fire, played upside down, played with his teeth, but every stunt was rooted in real skill. Blackmore didn't copy him, he respected him. Because Hendrix didn't break the rules, he rewrote the entire rulebook. Later, when Blackmore unleashed the burning speed of Highway Star, or the fury of Burn, Hendrix's influence was there in spirit, not in the notes, but in the freedom behind them. Number 6. Roger the Engineer, the Yardbirds, blueprint of innovation. The Yardbirds weren't just a band, they were a laboratory. Roger the Engineer was their manifesto. This was Jeff Beck's era. Aggressive, experimental, almost surgical in precision. Blackmore heard the album and understood immediately, these guys weren't worshipping blues. They were dissecting it. Songs like Over Under Sideways Down and Happenings 10 Years Time Ago were bizarre, fearless, and brilliantly structured. The Yardbirds took tradition and twisted it until it became something entirely new. It wasn't chaos, it was controlled experimentation, the perfect balance of discipline and danger. Blackmore admired that duality. The Yardbirds proved you didn't have to choose between being a skilled musician and a sonic explorer. You could be both. And of course, they were a training ground for giants: Clapton, Beck, Page. 3 future guitar gods born from the same band. Blackmore absorbed their philosophy and carried it into Deep Purple. Heavy riffs, blues foundations, and solos that explore without losing their center. The Yardbirds built the bridge, and Blackmore walked across it with purpose. Number 5. Disraeli Gears, Cream and the Power of a Trio. When Cream released Disraeli Gears, Blackmore realized something that changed his entire approach to rock. You don't need more musicians. You need the right musicians. Cream sounded massive, like an army condensed into 3 men. Clapton, Bruce, Baker, each filling a space without suffocating the others. Sunshine of Your Love was simplicity turned into a weapon. Not 1,000 notes, just the right notes. Blackmore admired that restraint, that confidence, that refusal to play anything unnecessary. Strange Brew, Tales of Brave Ulysses, psychedelic colors layered onto tight musicianship. Cream showed him the value of space. Empty air in music can be just as powerful as the sound that surrounds it. Later, you hear that philosophy fully alive in Smoke on the Water. It breathes, it waits, it hits exactly when it wants to. That's Cream's fingerprint on Blackmore's legacy. Number 4. Revolver, the Beatles as architects of imagination. You might not expect Blackmore to pick a Beatles album, but he never cared about expectations. Revolver wasn't just pop, it was ambition with a melody. 1966 was the year the Beatles stopped being a touring band and became a studio weapon. Tomorrow Never Knows sounded like a message from the future. backwards guitars, looped tapes, drums that felt tribal and cosmic all at once. Taxman carried a riff that could have belonged to early hard rock. Eleanor Rigby showed that emotional power didn't always need guitars. Blackmore saw something important. You can experiment endlessly as long as the melody survives. The Beatles weren't just writing songs, they were designing soundscapes. Blackmore took that spirit with him into Deep Purple and Rainbow, using the studio as a creative engine, not just a place to record. Revolver taught him that boundaries were optional, and Blackmore loved destroying boundaries. Number 3. Vanilla Fudge. Reinvention is an art form. Sometimes evolution begins by slowing everything down. When Vanilla Fudge released their self-titled debut in 1967, they didn't just cover songs, they transformed them. You Keep Me Hanging On became a 7-minute epic of organ swells and dramatic heaviness. Blackmore heard it and realized something essential. You don't always have to start from scratch. You can take what exists and reshape it into something unrecognizable. Theatrical, heavy, gothic, Vanilla Fudge proved that rock could be dramatic, emotional, even cinematic. Blackmore carried that lesson into his long arrangements, especially with Rainbow. The slow builds, the medieval tone, the deep emotion. He once said the band gave him permission to be dramatic without apologizing. And you can hear that permission echo throughout his entire career. Number 2. Led Zeppelin II, rivalry that forged legends. In 1969, Led Zeppelin didn't just release an album. They issued a challenge. Led Zeppelin II was a declaration. This is the new standard of heaviness. Blackmore and Jimmy Page weren't enemies, but they were competitors. Quietly, respectfully, fiercely, Whole Lotta Love hit like an earthquake. The Lemon Song crushed blues under sheer power. Heartbreaker showed Page could shred with the best. Blackmore heard the album and knew the bar had been raised. Deep Purple had to respond, and they did. The rivalry between Zeppelin and Purple made both bands sharper, faster, and hungrier. When Deep Purple recorded Machine Head 2 years later, Zeppelin's shadow pushed them to deliver something monumental. It wasn't jealousy, it was mutual ignition. Number 1. Brandenburg Concertos. Bach, the silent architect. Before the amps, before the Strat, before the Marshall stacks, there was Bach. Blackmore studied classical music long before he stepped into a rock band. To him, the Brandenburg Concertos were sacred text. Precision, harmony, counterpoint, music built like a cathedral, stone by stone. Bach taught Blackmore that freedom exists inside discipline. That structure doesn't kill creativity, it protects it. You can hear Bach everywhere in Blackmore's playing. The Baroque trade-off in Highway Star. The orchestral power of Stargazer. The medieval themes woven through Rainbow. The strict architecture behind every solo. Rock guitarists chased emotion. Blackmore chased structure. And that structure gave his music its unmistakable edge. Everything he built started here, in the 18th century, with a composer he never stopped admiring. Ritchie Blackmore never followed trends. He carved paths where none existed. From Hendrix's Fire to Bach's Ice, these 7 albums didn't just inspire him, they constructed the foundation of one of rock's greatest architects. Break rules, honor structure, and above all, make it your own. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more untold stories from rock's legends, and tell me in the comments. Which album changed your playing?